We are studying the course Discrete Mathematics. We are talking about the subject of propositional logic, and today we are talking about the quantifiers. So we know that there are two main quantifiers that we usually use. One of them looks like the capital letter A flipped over its head, and the other one looks like the capital letter E in a mirror image of it. And we've seen that sometimes these quantifiers appear alone, sometimes they appear in couples, like two times this quantifier, one of them or the other one, in a couple, one after the other. And for example, we can see that sometimes when we see two quantifiers, one after the other, it looks something like this. So in this case, when we see this couple together, first the A flipped on its head, and then the E in a mirror image, what we are looking right now is a sentence that says something like, for every number in the world, whichever number I choose, whichever number I fancy, this is still the stage that we are here in near this A. So I can choose whatever number I want in the world, and whichever number I choose, for that number, now I'm moving over to the other part of the expression, to that number that I chose, which can be any number in the world, well, to this number that I've chosen, there exists, here is the other quantifier, the one that looks like an E. There exists a number that, and then I can say something about the relationship between the two numbers or something about their value. So I can say, for example, that I can choose any number I want in the world. I'm still here in this stage of this quantifier A on its head. And whichever number I will choose, I know that for that number, there exists some number. Maybe there is one, maybe there is more, but at least I know there exists some number that, and now I can say something about the relationship between those two numbers or about their values, and I can insert this relationship or values of those two numbers here in a parenthesis. For example, I can say that whichever number in the world I will choose, and I'm still here in this stage near this quantifier A on its head, I can choose whichever number I want in the world. I know that for that number that I'm choosing, there exists a number that, and I will say now something about the relationship between those two numbers. I know that whichever number I choose in the world, I know that there exists for that number that I've chosen, another number, that's the Y, the other one, that if I will multiply those two numbers one with another, I will receive the number 1. I will write it down just so we will remember this example. And actually it's true, because whichever number in the world that I will choose, let's say I'm choosing, and I can choose any number I want, but let's say I'm choosing from all of the numbers in the world, the number 5. So yes, there exists for the number 5 that I've chosen, there exists for it a number that's actually 1 above 5, the fraction 1 above 5. If I will multiply them one in the other, I will receive 1. And actually, no matter which number in the world I will choose, no matter what number I will choose, for that number that I'm choosing from any number in the world, there exists some number that if I will multiply them one with another, I will receive 1. If I will choose 100, then 1 above 100, if I will multiply those two numbers one in another, in the other, I will receive 1. So this is an example for a case that I'm saying that forever, whichever number in the world that I'm choosing, there exists for that number some number that, and then I'm saying something about the relationship between those two numbers or about their values. But sometimes we find that we can express some statement or some sentence that is not exactly what I just said. It's a little bit different, and I will tell you what I mean. Let's say that instead of just saying for every number in the world that I'm choosing, I'm here at this quantifier, the one that looks like an A flipped on its head. Let's say that I'm kind of bluffing. I'm not really saying that I'm really talking about all the numbers in the world in its entirety. I'm actually carving out something, and I'm not really talking about the whole numbers in the whole universe. For example, I can say this sentence a bit different. I will say, for all the numbers in the world, and then I'm saying that are divisible by 2, or that are larger than 100, or that are smaller than 0. Oh, so I don't really mean that I'm speaking right now about all the numbers in the world, do I? I have some kind of reservation over there, kind of a way to limit myself and not really look at all the numbers in the world. So, and then I can continue my sentence. As I said, if I'm choosing any number in the world, that now I have this kind of contingency, kind of a reservation about all of the numbers that are bigger than 100, then I can continue my sentence and says, well, for that number that I've chosen, from all the numbers in the world, well, not exactly from all the numbers in the world, from all the numbers in the world that are divisible by 2 or bigger than 100 or smaller than 0 or something, to that number that I've chosen, from all the numbers in the world that satisfy this kind of statement, of reservation, of a contingency. So if I choose any one of those numbers, then there exists some number that satisfies this kind of relationship that we talked about between those two numbers, or I can say something about the values of the numbers. So we see that in the first example that I said, I didn't have any reservation when I said that I'm choosing any number in the world. I said for every number in the world that I'm choosing, I'm here at this A on its head. For each number that I will choose, whatever it is in the world, then exists a number that satisfies this kind of relationship that we're discussing, or values that we discussed. But now I'm talking about a little something different. Now I'm saying for all the numbers in the world, well, not exactly all the numbers in the world, all the numbers in the world that are divisible by 2 or not 0 or above 0 or more than 100. I'm saying some kind of carving out of all of this entirety of the numbers in the world. Then I say about this, whatever number I will choose from all of those numbers in the world that we're saying kind of, we have this kind of limitation about who is this world exist, who is this world really built from. And then we say about if we choose a number, whichever number it is that satisfies this reservation that we said, then we say that to this number that we've chosen, there exists some number that, and then we can say something about the relationship between those two numbers. So I will show you how we write down this kind of statement, which is it's reminiscent of the one that I discussed in the first, but it's a bit different because in the first one, I didn't say anything about this making a world a smaller place when I say that I can choose whatever number in the world I want. But in the second example, when I'm talking about I'm choosing any number in the world that I want, and then I know that for it there exists another number that is, and then I say something about the relationship between the two numbers or the values. Well, I'm actually not really speaking about the whole number in the whole universe. I'm kind of narrowing down the scope of this whole universe. And I'll show you how I write it down when we're discussing this kind of a limitation on this whole universe that we're talking about. So the way I write it is the following. I begin with using the quantifier that means every number in the world. But now I need to open a big parenthesis. And as we said in the second example, we're not really truly talking about all the numbers in the world. We're actually limiting ourselves to some kind of a narrower world. For example, we don't really mean that we're going to choose any number in the world. We're saying we're going to choose any number in the world and we're talking about some kind of limitation to the scope of this world. We're making it a bit narrower to choose from. So let's say that we're talking about to every number in the world, but not really all numbers in the world, only those that are bigger than 100. So when I'm writing it down, I'm going to open another pair of smaller parentheses, and I'm going to insert in them the limitation or the scope of this world that we're talking about, that all of the numbers in the world, we said that we're kind of limiting this vast scope, and I will write this limitation on my ability to choose any number in the world in this smaller parenthesis. So let's say I am going to choose any number in the world that I want that is bigger than 100. Okay, and now I'm going to place the symbol that looks like an arrow, and it is the symbol that means entailed or a consequence. And now I'm going to put the other quantifier that we saw here above, the one that says there exists a number that. So as we said, whichever number in the world I will choose that is above 100, there exists a number that. So now I'm going to write that other quantifier. And the quantifier that means exist. And please notice that I'm here using another variable. I'm using the variable y, another variable x, because we're actually talking about now a different number that exists, not the one that we chose in the beginning when we talked about choosing any number we want in the world that is above 100. And now I'm again opening a small parenthesis. And what I'm going to write here inside is this relationship between those two numbers. So we said that for every number in the world that we're choosing, just that our world is now smaller, it only consists of numbers that are above 100, there exists a number that, and now we are saying something about the relationship between those two numbers or their values. In our example, we said that those two numbers, if we multiply them with one another, then we will receive the number 1. And we also wrote it here above in the previous example. So now I'm going to write it again, but this time I'm going to put this relationship in this little parenthesis. So this is the difference, how it looks to formulate those two different statements, sentences. So in the first one we said, for every number, each and every number in the world, there exists a number that, and then we said something about the relationship of those two numbers to each other or something about their value. In the other example, when we said every number in the world, we actually didn't really mean it. We're looking at a world that is a bit smaller, that we are limiting it in some kind of limitation. And then we say, if we choose any number of the world, and the world is right now a bit smaller than it was in the other example, there exists a number that, and then there is some kind of statement about the relationship between those two numbers. So in this example, the way when we have some limitation of this vast world that we may choose from, we write it in a different way. So we write it first outside of the parenthesis. We are writing the quantifier that it looks like a on its head. Then in a little parenthesis, we are writing this limitation about the world, the whole world that we are allowed to choose from, any number in the world. So we are writing here the limitation that we had. We're not really talking about the whole world that we can choose from, but some kind of a smaller scope of the world. Then we are placing this arrow that means entailment or consequence. Then we put the quantifier that means there exists some number that, and we're using another variable. We call it y, not like the one we chose in the beginning. And then we open the parenthesis and we write inside it the relationship, or what we want to say about those two numbers. What are the values? What is the relationship they have to one another? What we want to say about it. So this is quite different, the way we write the first example and the second example. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope to see you in the next lesson.